Nicolas Sarkozy was president of France from 2007 to 2012. This story is about a court case that said his 2007 campaign tried to get secret money from Libya. It is also about how laws and courts deal with powerful people years after events happen. In simple terms, the question was this: did Libya under Muammar Gaddafi give money to help Sarkozy win in 2007? And did Sarkozy or people close to him try to get that money? If so, that would break French law, because foreign governments cannot fund political campaigns in France. The idea started to come out in public in 2011 and 2012. Journalists found and published papers and notes from inside Libya. A French site called Mediapart published a memo that said Libya had set aside money to support Sarkozy. The memo talked about large sums, up to 50 million euros. That number made people pay attention. It is a lot of money for a campaign. After those reports, French judges opened formal investigations in 2013. Investigators did what police and prosecutors normally do. They asked for paperwork. They looked at bank records. They asked for travel records. They checked phone records. They tried to find people who could say what they had seen. They also asked other countries to share documents and help with evidence. One set of names kept coming up. A businessman named Ziad Takieddine said, in public interviews, that he had carried suitcases of cash from Libya and gave them to people in France. He said he had meetings, and he described amounts and places, but later he changed parts of his story. He sometimes denied things he had once said. This made his testimony complicated for judges to use. Other people named were inside Sarkozy's circle. These included senior aides and ministers. Names often mentioned were Claude Guéant and Brice Horteveux. Some of these men had travelled or met Libyan officials. Investigators looked at their travel, emails, meetings and phone calls. There are different kinds of evidence in a court case. One kind is documents. That is why the Mediapart memo and Libyan notebooks mattered. Those papers were shown in court. Another kind is witness statements. Takieddine and some former Libyan officials made statements, recorded or given to judges. A third kind is indirect evidence. Travel logs, phone records, or patterns of meetings that suggest something happened even if there is no bank transfer to show it. French judges also use wiretaps and recordings sometimes. In other cases, investigators listen to phone calls that help them understand what people said to each other. Wiretaps played a role in other Sarkozy trials. They are part of the picture of his legal history. When investigators finished gathering evidence, prosecutors had to decide which crimes to charge. They used several charges in the Libya case. These included claims about illegal campaign financing, corruption, and a special charge called criminal association. Criminal association is like a legal word for conspiracy. It means people work together to plan or help commit wrongdoing, even if every small step cannot be proved. The court can find people guilty of association if it thinks the group formed to do illegal things. Sarkozy has also faced other trials before. This helps explain the full picture. In 2021, in a separate case, he was convicted of corruption and influence peddling. That case involved phone recordings. Judges said Sarkozy and his lawyer tried to get a job for a judge in return for information. The court found that showed influence peddling. The sentence included restrictions like house arrest with an electronic tag. Another big case is called the Bygmalion affair. That was about the 2012 campaign. French law sets a strict limit on how much a candidate can spend. The prosecution said the 2012 campaign spent far more than the limit. The accusation was that costs were hidden using fake invoices and a public relations firm named Bygmalion. Sarkozy and some of his team were found guilty of overspending. That created another legal problem for him. All these earlier decisions made the Libya trial part of a longer legal story. Judges, prosecutors and the public had already watched Sarkozy in many legal fights. That context made this trial feel like the end of a long road for many people. The Libya trial itself began in early 2025. Prosecutors asked for a heavy punishment. They asked for 7 years in prison, large fines, and a ban from public office. They said the plan ran from 2005 to 2007, when Sarkozy was Interior Minister and then presidential candidate. They argued that Libya would get favours and Sarkozy's team would get cash. Courts run trials with rules. The prosecution opens the case and explains why it believes crimes were committed. The defence then answers and tries to show the evidence is not strong. Witnesses are called, documents are shown to the judges, experts explain technical points about money or documents, judges listen, ask questions, and then make a decision later. In this trial, the prosecution presented the memo published by Mediapart in the Libyan notebooks. They showed travel dates for Sarkozy's aides and times when Libyan officials spoke about money. Prosecutors also read out testimony by intermediaries who described meetings and cash deliveries. They tried to show a pattern: meetings, communications, and money-related notes that fit a scheme. The defense used several lines. They said the memo might be forged. They said Takieddine's statements were inconsistent. They reminded judges that there was no clear bank transfer into Sarkozy's official campaign accounts. They argued that friendly diplomacy or public visits do not mean a secret money deal. They asked judges to require proof beyond reasonable doubt before finding a man guilty. This contest between pattern and inference versus direct proof was central to the trial. One dramatic event was the death of Ziad Takieddine in Beirut just days before the verdict. Takieddine had at times accused and at times defended people. His death meant he could not be questioned further in court. Judges still looked at his past statements, but his death complicated how people saw the evidence. On 25th September 2025, the court gave its decision. The judges found that Sarkozy was guilty of criminal association. That means the court judged there was enough evidence to say he was part of a plan with others to seek illicit funds from Libya. But the court did not find him guilty of every possible charge. He was acquitted of some counts like direct corruption and direct illegal campaign financing. The judges said they could not prove beyond doubt that Libyan money had actually been counted in the campaign bank accounts. For that conviction, the court gave a 5-year prison sentence, a €100,000 fine, and a 5-year ban from holding public office. Importantly, the judges said the sentence should be enforceable even if Sarkozy appeals. That means he must start serving time while higher courts review the case. This is an unusual step in French legal practice and drew wide attention. Some other people close to Sarkozy were also convicted or received penalties. Claude Guéant and Brice Hortefeux, two of his associates, were found guilty of roles in the association. Others were acquitted. The court looked at each person's actions separately and decided based on the evidence for each person. Public reaction was loud and divided. Some of Sarkozy's supporters said the court was wrong and called the ruling political. They said the judges used guesswork. Sarkozy himself called the decision a scandal and said he would appeal. Other people welcomed the verdict. They said it showed that even powerful leaders can be held to account. International media also paid close attention. Many papers called the decision historic because a modern French president faces prison time. Leaders and parties reacted. Some politicians warned that making a sentence enforceable during appeal could create tension in politics. Others said it showed the rule of law is strong. European commentators said the case raises questions for all democracies about secret foreign funding. Observers in Africa and the wider Mediterranean watch too, because the case connects to how outside states try to influence politics. Why does Libya matter in this story? Libya under Muammar Gaddafi was isolated for many years, but Gaddafi's government wanted to buy influence and acceptance in Europe. Providing money is one way to try to do that. If a foreign leader pays a campaign, he may expect favours later. The documents published in 2012 suggested Libya wanted to help Sarkozy and get influence in return. Those documents, if true, show how foreign influence can work. There is also a strange part of the story. Years later, in 2011, France supported military action in Libya that helped topple Gaddafi. If the 2007 money story is true, it means the same man who got help later supported action against his benefactor. That adds to the confusion and to questions people ask about motivation, memory, and politics. What does this mean for democracy in the future? First, the case shows that old evidence can matter. Judges can reopen events from years ago. Documents, interviews, and careful work by prosecutors can lead to trials decades later. This fact should remind political leaders to be careful about their contacts and funding. It also shows citizens and watchdogs that transparency in funding matters. Second, the verdict could prompt changes. Some people say countries must tighten rules, keep better records, and improve oversight. Others say courts must be careful not to use weak evidence to judge powerful figures. Both views matter for a healthy democracy. Third, the case may change politics in France. Parties that defend Sarkozy use strong language. Opponents use the verdict to argue for clean politics. The long legal fights could shape voter opinions in future elections. People who follow this case will watch the appeal and what courts decide next. The appeal will be important. In France, appeals can change, reduce, or cancel verdicts. Higher courts will review the legal arguments and the evidence. Because the sentence was declared enforceable during appeal, Sarkozy may have to go to prison while the appeals move forward. That is a rare step, and it will shape how the story continues in the coming months. Finally, remember what this trial teaches about facts and judgments. Courts try to apply clear legal rules. Judges must decide if the evidence meets the legal standard. Sometimes the evidence can prove a group acted together without proving every payment or every step. That is what happened here. The court found a conspiracy based on patterns and witnesses, but it did not find proof of direct transfers into campaign bank accounts for all charges. This is not the end of the story. Appeals will follow. Other investigations into related matters may continue. People will argue about politics and justice. But for now, the court has reached a decision that affects a former president, his close aides, and the public's view of how money and power can mix. The short lesson is simple. Campaign money matters. Foreign money in elections creates risks. Careful record keeping and strong checks help protect democracy, and courts can act even many years later to enforce those rules. Thank you for listening.